It's not Charmaine, it's stevetsakiris. We've had him on the show. He is an extraordinary thinker, artist, creative, but he's also somebody who has dedicated his life to improve the life of others. And he does it through a range of stuff. Through sound therapy, he facilitates many workshops, not just for individuals, but for corporates as well. And as you know, every Tuesday on the Wealth Zen, we have conversations with people, well, especially Charmaine, about how do we impact our lives and make it for the better. And when Charmaine can't do it, we have friends of the show, and Steve Sakiris is definitely one of those. Steve, good morning. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning, Sam. Thanks very much. Your introductions always make me feel too good to be true, actually. Thank you for the great introduction.
No, but listen, anybody who knows you knows that you've walked the talk. You do this on a daily basis. You impact the lives of others. And you know, when we put this show together, I can't take credit for today's topic. It's all Steve. But tell me a little bit for our listeners, what are we talking about today? And why was it so important for us to reflect on this?
Well, I thought about talking about the fact that I think a lot of people that I've spoken to, and myself included, have had a really tough year this year. It's been challenging on many different levels. I think the world is changing. I think people are changing. I think we're under a tremendous amount of stress. And so I thought it was important to kind of speak to people, especially this time of year, towards the end of the year. It's supposed to be the happy season, right?
Yes.
But so many people are depressed. I mean, the statistics of things like suicide go up at this time of year, which is frightening.
Yeah.
So many people are lonely. So many people are feeling down. So I thought maybe we can try and set kind of some perspective on this whole thing, maybe to help somebody out there who's listening to us who's not in a good space and they've had a tough year. And you know what? The other thing is social media. You go on Facebook and Instagram and
everybody seems happy.
Everybody's life is perfect. You know what I mean? Perfect, and they're smiling. And so it's like,
and it's fake.
It's all fake. And people might be thinking, like, what's wrong with me? So I wanted to address it because I really think it's a serious topic. And I think hopefully we can help some of our listeners today.
Yeah. So help us put our year in perspective, because I think you are right. For some people, it's been tough. And I am going to say something that I think it's not a slight against anybody. It's not to put anybody down. I want to get your perspective because you're the expert. I don't think we reflect enough. I don't think we spend enough quiet time with our thoughts and the ability to, because maybe we come from a household where there was no value in it ever. Maybe as adults we've never thought about, I'm not talking about meditation specifically, that's a different conversation. But we've never thought about reflecting in a meaningful way, thinking about the week that was, the week that manifests, the week that should be. Just your perspective on that. Do we reflect enough?
I agree with you totally. We don't. And it's the way we've been trained. It's the way we've been kind of educated. It's like the old saying is, don't just sit there, do something.
Yeah.
You know, my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Zen master who passed away in 2022, and I was privileged enough to spend time in his monastery in France in 2014. He used to say the opposite. Don't just do something, sit there. And it sounds counterproductive. It's like, but he wasn't saying don't do anything.
Yes.
It's like the quality of our action comes from our mind, from our emotions, from our internal landscape. If we don't reflect on that internal landscape, and that's a mess, whatever action we take from that space is going to be a mess. It's going to cause problems. And I agree with you totally. I think that's the reason why we have the mess that we have in the world, because everybody's just doing from a place where they haven't reflected.
Quite robotic.
Very robotic, and it's getting more and more so, and it's getting quicker. And as I said, with social media as well, people are kind of almost cloning each other because they're not even thinking, who are you? What's going on inside you? And you and I have spoken on the show many times before about the need for awareness. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about, self-reflection. It's about what is going on inside of me and why is that happening? And then from that space, once I can gather myself, balance myself, then I can take action in a way that's meaningful, that's compassionate, and that's helpful not only to me, but to others as well.
You know, there's something, and I don't want to move away from, I see you've got lots of notes here. I don't want to move away from the talking points, but I wanted to just ask, as you say stuff, kind of react to them. The inability to reflect So obviously, lots of people have a very busy work life, and so it can easily be mistaken for being busy and not needing that time, because when you're busy, you're busy. And then this period comes now where offices close and people are winding down, and it's less frenetic. It actually is going to come to a stop at some point. But in other people's lives, what they end up doing is they replace the hecticness of their work life with now being hectic socially. So now it's the parties, the visiting people, and bouncing from one venue to another, planning trips and stuff. So there's still no reflection. There's still no quiet time. There's still no kind of thinking about what does 2026 look like? What was 2025 like? 2025 like? Because we have to just keep on moving. And I think that is not good.
Absolutely, you're right, because we're so used to not having to think about what's going on inside of us that we distract ourselves. We distract ourselves with food, we distract ourselves with work, and as you said, at this time of year, I mean, it's the quietest time of year in Joburg for 2 weeks where everybody leaves and it becomes quiet. So what do we do with ourselves? We don't know what to do with ourselves because we always distract ourselves. So we find new distractions. We keep running away from ourselves. And then there are also the people that find that they run out of distractions, and therefore then they have to encounter themselves. And that's the reason why I think so many people actually feel lonely, depressed, and down at this time of year. It's because some people have no other way of escaping. All their avenues of escape have been closed. They've been locked up. And then so you do the party, you do that, but then at night when you're alone and your mind is thinking and you have to face yourself, then that's when loneliness and depression comes in. Whereas if we're used to doing that, and that's why I always try and encourage people to do that as a practice, to go inside. Why would you go inside? People say, I mean, like, why would I need to go inside? It's because there are things there that need to be reflected upon. They need to be addressed. And by not addressing them, by pretending they're not there, doesn't make them go away. It actually makes them worse. The subconscious mind will try and flag you and say to you, hey, you need to look at this. And then all of a sudden things start going wrong in your life.
Yeah.
Why is that? It's because you need to look at certain things inside yourself.
How does one, I don't know if I'm asking a silly question, but I'll ask it anyway. How does one reflect safely? How do you
safely?
Yeah, how do you I mean, we started this entire conversation to say for some people it's been a tough year.
Yeah.
How do you get into the space where you can reflect? Because I think there's a quality to reflection.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There's a quality to meditation.
Yes.
There's a quality to your clothes.
Yes.
How do you start reflecting if that's never been your thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. The first thing I would ask is, when you say safely, what is the danger of reflecting, would you say?
I'm worried that when you say that you don't deal with things, that sometimes what we do as human beings, we bury and we bury and we
Certainly,
bury and
yes.
we layer. And that if you open up that can of worms and you haven't dealt with that emotion,
Yes.
it could potentially incapacitate you.
Yes, you're quite right. And so here's a metaphor that I always like to use as well. Imagine that tomorrow, all of a sudden, I came to you and I said, Sam, there's a big concert on at one of the theaters, and I want you to play the violin for this concert, right? That's what I come to you and I say.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you say to me, but how can I do this? There's no way I can do that. And it's true, because what we need to do in order to play that concert, we need to practice a lot, and we need to practice in the quiet time of ourselves when nobody's listening, in our room, whether it's the violin, whether it's drums, whether it's any instrument, you need to practice. So you can't just get up on stage tomorrow and perform.
Yeah.
It's the same
You
with...
look like a fool.
You look like a fool.
Unless you're insanely talented.
Yes, unless you're insanely talented. But otherwise, that's the danger of it.
Yeah.
So it's the same with internal reflection. It's a practice, Sam. It's not something that you can actually just do. It's a practice.
Yeah.
So you need to do this, and the best time to do it is during the times when things are going okay. When you're already getting into a situation where there is some kind of a crisis, I won't say it's too late, but it's frightening that way. And that's when it seems to become more dangerous.
Yeah.
So my suggestion is always spend 5 minutes. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to meditate for hours a day. That's not the thing. But spend 5 minutes a day initially, just stopping and just being with your thoughts. And the most powerful tool that you can use for that, honestly, it sounds so simplistic, but it is. It's your breath. There are certain breathing techniques that I share that they're not mine. They are universal, and they come from Eastern traditions, and they've always been around. But just 5 minutes of that will quieten. You see, our nervous system, science tells us this now, our nervous system becomes dysregulated. You know what I mean? We've got all this very fast frequency brainwave activity happening because of stress. Our breath is shallow. Our heart rate is up. So all of these things can be regulated in 5 minutes using the breath. So my suggestion would be, don't wait for crisis. Make it this is the end of the year. We are talking about reflecting. We're talking about how do we learn the lessons of 2025 and make a better 2026. My suggestion would be start a reflection practice. And there are many ways. We could do an entire show just on that. Yeah. But there are many ways that you can do that. But take 5 minutes a day to start off with. Just sit with yourself, breathe, and ask yourself, what am I thinking right now and how am I feeling? And then you can expand on that. As you become more proficient, as you become more confident, as you feel safer and safer, you can spend more and more time. Then you can start journaling, and you can start using a number of other techniques. But you have to, it's a practice. You can't just stand up in front of an audience and play the violin. It takes a lot of time to practice making mistakes, hitting the wrong notes until you can do that.
What do you say to those people that say, Steve, I love what you're saying, but that's not me. I don't have time in my day. And you know, it was so interesting. A couple of weeks ago, we on the Lucky Hustle segment, we had Akram Muhammad, and he talked about this, you know, this massive change in his life. And the first thing that he did was he realized that he had a ton of time. He actually had a ton of time. So he wakes up every morning at, I think, 5 or 6, spends the first hour by himself. He's in the garden. He has a cup of tea. He reflects. And he's also made the decision not to have sugar. I mean, for some of us, that would be diabolical not to have sugar in our lives. But it's that intervention, that intentional intervention on a daily basis. He's seen his life improve, the quality of his life. He's lost a lot of weight. All the gymming, all the memberships couldn't reduce the weight. The moment he made that hour for himself, he started seeing the kilos just drop off. And he became intentional about that life. And my argument is that I think we need to become intentional now.
Absolutely.
We need to fight for that time.
Absolutely. It needs to be. And the time is there. You know, how much time do we spend doom scrolling? We get caught. I mean, it happens to me too. I'll go onto a TikTok thing and see something, and that algorithm is so smart. It's your brain against this massive computer. You got no chance. And then the next thing you know, 45 an hour later, you're doom scrolling, right? That's a waste of time. So many other things waste our time. And it's the point that you make. It's intention. Like that example that you gave, he wakes up at a certain time and he spends an hour doing...
And he goes to bed every night at a certain time.
There you go. So there you go. And just being in a garden, for example, that's another incredibly powerful thing because nature balances us. Just being around nature, the calmness, the peace of nature, the colors, the green, it's beautiful. That's what it is. You know, there's a paradoxically sounding kind of saying that they say in meditation is that if you're too busy to meditate for half an hour a day, then you should be meditating for an hour.
Sure.
It sounds paradoxical.
Yes,
and it doesn't really matter about the time. It's just the notion. The notion, what it's trying to teach us is if you are too busy to be able to meditate, even for 5 minutes, then you should be meditating for a lot longer. And meditation can be being in your garden. You don't have to sit in the lotus position and you know, do all this esoteric stuff. It doesn't have to be. Be in the garden. But when you're in the garden, be in the garden. Be with your plants. Be with your tree. Be with your dog. Be with your cat. Don't be with your problems. You know what I mean? That's what makes life so fast. And our devices make life so fast because people expect us to reply to them straight away. Emails are not like they used to back in the day.
And you feel the pressure of, there's certain people you feel the pressure, if I don't respond, they're going to think this, they're going to think that.
Yes, exactly. Back in the day, remember when emails first came out, you could take a week to reply to an email. Then smartphones came out and like you're expected to reply within 5 minutes. You know, life has
a lot of pressure.
It does, but we don't have to succumb to that pressure. I think that example you gave is a perfect example. Take time every day, intentionally. Take time. Cut out things that are going to make you hyperactive. Like go on a fast, but also go on an online fast. Don't touch your TikTok. Don't touch your Instagram. We're also, but I'm on LinkedIn, so it's like it's for my business. Well, yes, and
No.
not really.
Yeah.
Like, don't try for a day, for a weekend. Just don't touch social media and see how much more time you have to do this other stuff. And then the reflection starts happening naturally as well.
Now, we started off talking about loads of people are going into the space over the festive period now, being alone, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say something that I think you'll disagree with. I think that maybe one of the ways to deal with your loneliness is to make time for yourself, is to actually reflect on just kind of maybe the year that was, the challenges, whatever it may be. But instead of seeing it as you being lonely and people rejecting you, or you don't have anybody in your life, maybe this festive period is the first time that you own that you have time for yourself and that you're not lonely. Maybe flip the narrative and see it as time that you can reclaim for yourself as opposed to being lonely.
I absolutely agree with you. In fact, I love that idea. I don't disagree at all. I think that's a marvelous way to start the practice, because it's also a time of year which is slower, so you've got less external pressure, and you can actually take that time to be with yourself, and who, by the way, is the most important person of your life. If you are not a happy person, if you're an angry, fearful person, you are toxic to people around you. Never mind happy, you become a toxicity. So if you want to, there are people that say, I don't have time for myself because I'm always giving to others. But you can't give from an empty cup. You've got to fill your own cup first. It's very, very important. So I agree with you. It's a time for reflection. It's a time for taking stock. It's kind of like, today, I thought about kind of using the metaphor, because we are doing the wealth zen. I thought of the metaphor of a balance sheet. A business has a balance sheet, right?
Yes.
Where you've got assets and liabilities. But I thought about the concept of, why don't we have a wellness balance sheet? A wellness balance sheet.
I love that.
And we look at what are the liabilities and what are the assets that we went through this year. And liabilities can be anything that drains your energy. Something like, for example, your anger. Why are you angry? And what caused you to be angry, and can you be less angry? Your regrets, the what ifs. What if I made this decision at the beginning of the year? What if my project had gone better? Those are all liabilities. Sit with a piece of paper, have a look at your assets and liabilities, your wellness balance sheet. So what are your assets? Your assets can be, and actually you can turn your liabilities into assets, is, okay, I realize I made that mistake. That was the wrong choice. My asset from that will be, what did I learn from that? Do I need to have better boundaries? Let's say you had a bad relationship this year. Things didn't go well at all. That's a liability, right? And you can say the year sucked and it was a waste. No. What did you learn about yourself from that relationship? Do you need to be more true to yourself? Do you need to have boundaries? Do you need to be around better people? Those are all the assets that we can take into 2026. And this is the perfect time to do it. Like you said, like you suggested.
I love that idea. I love that idea of a wellness balance sheet that you're able to look at tangibly, look at the data, and the data gets fed back to you, and you say, well, in actual fact, I've got a challenge with this. And sometimes, I also love this idea. I mean, I'm not, I tried journaling. I'm not into it. I'm not going to lie. I tried to sit there with my thoughts. That was like, I'd rather just chat GPT my thoughts. I'd rather just, this is how I feel, or journal.
Yeah.
So some of us are never going to do that.
Yeah.
But I do think that what we could do is, in quite short form, get into that kind of very tactile experience of, this is what happened, this is what I learned, and be able to then take that and then come into the new year with a sense of self.
Yes, I like it. And by the way, journaling, I've gone through years of my life where I've journaled every single day, where I've done something called morning pages, which was extremely helpful.
I take my hat off to you.
But I don't do it anymore. So there's different times of my life where it works, and I totally understand you when you say it doesn't work for me. But when you're talking to GPT, and I use Gemini. Gemini is my therapist. Gemini is my friend. Gemini is my consultant, and it's.
I even argue with.
Absolutely, and it's wonderful because you actually look. AI is here. A lot of people have got a lot of negative connotations about it, but I believe we use it for the best possible reasons. That's a form of journaling. That's a form of therapy. And you actually even get a reply. You get feedback.
And it tracks the conversation.
It does. Yeah. It's absolutely amazing. So, yeah, different folks for different strokes for different folks, as they say. Yeah.
How important is it, and as we wrap up, I just want to drive that final nail. How important is it, especially in this period coming up now? And we're not talking about the people that are going to have friends, family around them specifically. We're talking about the ones that are slightly lonelier than the others. How important is it going to be? Because it is a very difficult time that we're about to enter. I mean, just because every year, fortunately or not fortunately, for me, I do see SADC's reports over the festive period. There's been an increase in people needing their services, the South African Depression Anxiety Group. There's a lot of people that feel, I mean, even in our church, for example, on the Sundays, you'll have our pastor will say, listen, over this period, if you can invite somebody into your home, remember there are people that they don't have family, they don't have friends. If you can, pull out an extra chair for someone, make them part of your family. But I'm going to ask this question, how important is it, just as a final note, that we get you to understand you're not alone?
I think it's very important, and it's interesting because paradoxically, one of the best ways to feel good yourself is to help somebody else. So even if you are in a space where, I think that's one of the best therapies actually, if you're in a space where you're feeling lonely, you're feeling down, you're feeling depressed, the best way out of it is to do something positive for someone else. And quite often, a lot of people...
It might be volunteering or whatever.
Go to the SPCA and just spend some time with animals if that's your thing. Go to an old age home and just spend some time with older people who are themselves lonely and see... You know that I've worked many years with an organization called Read to Rise, and I've been involved with children, and just reading a story to a child gives you such a lot of inspiration when that child soaks it up and enjoys the story. So find a way so don't close up. That's what I'm saying. I think the worst thing that one can do when they're feeling lonely and depressed is to close up. Because once you've shut the door, nothing can come in. You shut the door to stop bad stuff from coming in, but at the same time, good stuff can't come in either. So open up. It's counterintuitive. It takes a bit of courage. But that would be my number one kind of piece of advice is try and do something for someone else. Like, I don't know, we live in South Africa. Go into a shopping mall, speak to a car guard. Just do something that will that gets you out of your rut, because we're stuck in a rut and we start this circular motion of feeling sorry for ourselves or everything's going bad for us. And I'm not saying we don't have problems, we do. But there's always somebody out there with a bigger problem than you, and just kind of connecting with a human. I think one of the biggest things that we suffer from these days is disconnection, interestingly enough. Even though we're supposed to be more connected than ever through social, through online, we are disconnected to authentic relationships, I think.
Yeah, and because I think the dopamine hits come off TikTok and all that stuff. And
they
so
do.
You don't feel you have to do the work to connect and go for a coffee and all of that kind of stuff. Or if just get hold of stevetsakiris and the team, and they can help you navigate this space. Steve, where can people get hold of you?
Usually I give my website, but today I'm going to say people can look me up on YouTube. I've got a lot of videos that can be very helpful for people. So Steve Tsakiris on YouTube, you can find me there. On my LinkedIn. And I
spell Tsakiris for them.
Tsakiris, so it's Steve, S-T-E-V-E, and Tsakiris is T for Tommy, S for sugar, A-K-I, R for Robbie, I-S for sugar. Yeah.
And go and there's a bunch of resources that Steve has put together, and you have access to it. And you wanted to say one last thing?
I was going to say one last thing. They can go to the 919 LinkedIn page where this particular broadcast was advertised. I think your guys reposted it. They can drop a comment there. They can leave there. If they're feeling like they need help right now, I'm prepared to kind of assist, to kind of connect with them. Let them leave a comment there and tag me on the 919 website, on the article or the post for the show, and I'll get hold of them.
I love it. That's the Wealth Zen. We do it every Wednesdays. I'm ahead of myself. Every Tuesday at 10:10, we have meaningful conversation, and hopefully it inspires you. Hopefully it gives you a bit of tools. And we'll obviously continue these conversations, especially as the festive season ramps up.